Hello, everyone. Great. Looks like oh good. A lot of the folks whose artwork I grabbed are here, so that's good. Um, Welcome everyone. If you don't know just raise your hand or mention in the chat if you know who I am. Um, just curious. I'm fairly active in the Shared and Hopefuls server. Okay, great. Okay, so some folks do. Okay, so just a quick little intro for anyone that doesn't know who I am. I'm an ex-grad of Sheridan College. Now I'm a freelance animator, and I run the animation tutor. And we have a whole bunch of different online classes and mentorships and stuff. But um, I'm also just an independent artist, and I have my site over here as well. And I do book illustration. I do various different kinds of animation, mostly at a freelance capacity. I'm not actually like a studio animator. So yeah, I'm kind of out there knocking on door. Well, not really submitting to publishers and getting gigs that way. But anyways, I got a whole bunch of your artwork. Thanks everyone for submitting some. So I started this free monthly portfolio thing in November, and I'm going to keep doing it. So every month, and I think we're going to have one of our other tutors, Tieran, who's fantastic. He's specifically really good at like storyboarding and the beat boards, and he's a current student at Sheridan. He's going to do it in January. Okay, so definitely stay tuned, and you'll be hearing about it if you're in the Hopeful server or in mine. All right. Well, let's get to it. I don't want to take any more time. So I just kind of grabbed a good cross section of ones that I felt would help everyone learn some things together because there are some common things. One thing that I'm kind of surprised about right off the bat is that we got some dark layouts this year. It's just like tonally, like it's just I haven't seen a year with such dark layouts before. I don't know what's going on, but anyways, nothing to do with your drawing, but just an observation right off the bat. Um, and thanks, Millie. Millie is the one who reminded me that the session was on, and I almost forgot about it because I've got so much other stuff going on and students right now. So thanks, Millie, for the reminder about the session that I decided to host. Okay, so folks, you have the chat. Please use it. You can post questions there. Anything about the portfolio, I'm yours for this hour. I'm going to start going through some of these artworks I grabbed, but yeah, if you just have any questions, you can use the chat. That would be great, or just say it. But I know many folks online are shy. So okay, got a whole bunch of good artworks here as a nice cross section of kind of the whole. But and I think these are your two, Millie, first, these layouts. Um, yeah, so I like the sort of sense of the flow of it. Um, so one thing I just want to mention because this is something that I see a lot. So, a lot of you realize, yeah, see every single one of these has a nice foreground element. And I want to talk about that foreground element for a minute in your layout. So like, absolutely, you can think of the foreground element as a sort of a way to sort of elucidate what the theme and the story of your layout is all about. Because we don't get to see everything in super high detail. We see most of a scene, we see different elements of it, but this foreground is the only spot where we're really going to see, yeah, like very clear things, especially if it's small things. We're not going to see small things in high detail back there. It needs to be up close. So use your foreground as a way of sort of set dressing your scene so that when we look at the scene, we're immediately like, okay, it's that kind of scene. It's a room, it's a messy grocery store. So you use your foreground, or yeah, I think it's like some kind of crazy grocery store that's been. It looks like it's been robbed. I don't, or it just has had pumpkins crack open, or let me know, Millie, what you're thinking for. There's a couple stories that could be interpreted from this, and I see it's Thanksgiving, so it looks like maybe it's just like they're sold out of everything because it was so busy, or I don't know, something along those lines. But you want the foreground to kind of tell us that. In some cases, I think people are getting a little bit overzealous about that foreground sort of encroaching on your composition. So in this case, like with these things, I'm like, how I'd rather like totally see this. Like I don't know if we need to put anything in front of this. Um, I'm guessing the point you're trying to convey here is that they're face down looking at a map, and then there's this big hungry. It looks like an axolotl, and I hope it is because I absolutely love those things. But if it's this giant creature in the background, some kind of dragon or something, then sure, I get it. It's like around the corner. Um, just a thought that you're not using your vertical space as much. Like, does it have to be in the river, I guess? Like, because you have so much sort of potential space up here, that could be kind of like, and you've got like sort of some kind of ridge here, I guess. So we could almost like be seeing this, or if it's some kind of long dragony snake type thing, you could begin that up here and then kind of continue it around, and that would be kind of neat too. Um, yeah, so I remember we talked about this last, and it was like you had it more central, and now you're using much more of your screen, which is great. Um, yeah. And the nice thing is the movement is kind of heading in this direction, then it kind of brings in. So this is another thing with the foreground. The foreground brings your eye back in, hopefully, especially if you're accidentally creating some arrows. Like for example, if you have a river that like thins or something here, you can end up accidentally pointing our viewers' eyes out of the shot. And so you can use that foreground as sort of a buffer so that it doesn't pull our attention totally out of the shot. Um, but yeah, not too bad, Millie. One thing, like you've got lots of lines in here. I'm not sure, like obviously you're gonna clean this up and stuff, but that would be one thing that would really help is just to like, yeah, not render it so much. Like even all this, it almost feels a little bit like needless labor. So if you can condense what you're trying to do there a little bit, that would probably be great. Yeah, yeah, it looks a little bumpy, but that's all right. Also with the bridge, okay, it looks like you're getting a decent perspective on this bridge, but let's not put like if there were a point, obviously in your exterior perspective, those like points of perspective are a little bit vague. We're not necessarily going to have them clearly identified. However, it should be plausible. That's the idea. It's not like perfect, but it's plausible. So to do this, it's just a little bit even and perfect, like I feel like I'd love if you could like if we see that much of this side, let's see less of this side over here. Like even like something like that or something. So that would make it do something like this. And then yeah, gradually it's gonna, or even like it could be going to the other side. That would actually be better. And then the rock is obviously that's gonna happen. The rock is gonna catch it so that we don't see as much of it. That's the point I'm trying to convey here, is that it's not gonna match up so perfectly everywhere. And where, especially for exteriors, we think about it, like the interior is your linear geometric perspective, right? That's where you want to show off like your ability to arrange structures and oh, sorry, there's someone else coming. Um, so yeah, the interior is where the whole thing is about like here, I know how to do perspective. That's what you're saying to them with the interior, and I can tell a story and all that good stuff too. But with the exterior, you want to say the exterior in many ways is more complicated because it's kind of like math in a way. With math, there are precise answers. In the interior, the linear perspective, there is rules for that perspective. Now there is rules here, but it's not so clear cut because we don't have a very fine-tuned horizon line or points of perspective. We just need to have a general sense. If we're looking at the underside of a tree, we need to, yeah, for example, this is a bit, here where you have this situation with these branches, and then this branch goes up into that foliage. So the way you've drawn this is almost like we're viewing it from above, not below. Because if we're viewing it from below, then probably we're going to see these branches actually kind of join the foliage above, and then because basically it's just like in the linear perspective, we have an object, and as it moves away from the horizon line rather, we're going to see the bottoms of things. So in all of these rocks, everything that we see here, we need to have this sense of like, okay, where's the horizon line? Let's say it looks like it's probably somewhere around here. Let's just say that's the case. So everything above this, like this bridge, we need to see a believable amount of of the bottom of that, right? Same with this doesn't change for nature. In our minds, we have this big separation between nature and linear geometry, right? That is not really the case. We like with all these rocks, we need to have them identified as if we're seeing them in space. So yeah. I'm somewhat curious, Millie, of some of, I guess, okay, there's a form there, and then there's something there. It still is a little bit centered right here. I don't know exactly how, but I would love this somehow to arc around a little bit. Like if maybe there's a little bit of a little walkway here, but maybe it's crumpled. It's broken. Yeah, and this is what I was gonna say about like the whole linear perspective versus natural. Natural, you're gonna have more organic forms, whether it's human made or not, if it's rock or structure, make it a little more decrepit, give it a little extra wear in your exterior perspective so that it doesn't feel like it was printed out from the bridge factory yesterday, right? That's for the linear perspective one. So yeah, if you could kind of arc this around, or maybe this is some kind of beachy spot here. Which, by the way, on that note, whenever a lot of my students are drawing things with rivers and stuff, and sometimes what happens is we draw like the ground, the grassy ground, whatever that might be, and then river right away. It's just stark difference. Like grass, and then sometimes there's even like a little cliff, little rocky thing, grass here, cliff, water. There's more transition. So think of like if you use lots of reference, you will find some good like even some like smaller rocks or cattails or more marshy plants. Like try to make it plausible. I really like to think a lot about the story of the image and where we are and what kind of environment this is. Um, so like those little things, the little areas to transition from one kind of climatic area to another is actually kind of important. I really like when thought is put into that. Um, so yeah, I'd open this up a little bit more and maybe even continue this and maybe bring in like a waterfall or two or three back there. They could be very small, even just like little signs of a waterfall, but definitely overlap lots of forms as you go back in space so that we really feel the geometry move backwards. Um, but yeah, I don't love the positioning of him. I don't know why. It just feels a little like I mean maybe he's right, yeah, he's kind of like hiding behind. It'd almost be better to like put him in a cave and just have his eyes glowing or something, like something that isn't so like I'm right here, and the only reason you can't see me is because you're looking at my map, or your map rather. It reminds me of like Walking Dead or any kind of zombie thing where the zombies just they only manage to get the characters because the camera doesn't see them, not because it's plausible that the characters wouldn't see them. That always drives me crazy. So I don't know. That's a thought. But yeah, you have a lot of rock rendering here. Maybe break that up with some natural forms, plant, vegetation, stuff like that. Um, okay. You make the foreground, middle ground, background different colors. Different colors, Shiloh. I wouldn't make them different colors. I mean, every layout that I've ever seen pretty much is, oh, shades, I see, like tonal range. Yeah, that's fine. Like one thing that you shouldn't necessarily do, and some people do this, and it's not always a problem, but yeah, okay, so this one. This is the only one that I see here where the tonals are actually representing the light and dark forms. So there's light clearly coming from this way, and then the dark forms back here. And this is fine. In most cases, people add tonals to help clarify the different elements of the layout, right? So the foreground is often darker because it's right in our face and we don't always want to concentrate on it fully. So it's like, yeah, let's darken it. Yeah, so it's more of a convenience of like the just clarifying what's happening in the layout rather than here's exactly what the light and dark. Like you don't have to start rendering light and dark, that's for sure. That's why when I see this, I'm like, okay, I'm glad that whoever's this is, I'm glad that you at least did the steps. Like there's this mid-tone, then there's this lighter tone. Like that's better. Um, I've seen some people try to like render it, and I'm like, no, no, no. This is remember, this is animation. This is just it's mostly they mostly want to see the line drawing. This used to only be a line drawing in previous years. So the tonal, like, yeah, let it clarify your layout, but it doesn't, you don't rely on the tonal. The line work should be able to do it. Um, so yeah, lots of good layouts here, by the way, folks. Um, Yeah, Millie, this is an ambitious shot. It seems like a decent view of this grocery store place. But yeah, currently the story's a tad confusing. Other than that, there's a broken thing. It kind of looks like they got totally swamped and they've just been yeah, or stuff has been stolen. Oh, there's a squirrel. Maybe there's a whole pack of squirrels that ran through here? I don't know. You need a little bit more to indicate that than a single squirrel, I would say. But yeah, okay, sure. Could work. And it's nice that you chose a place, not just like no, if anyone has done this, it's fine, but I see a lot of bedrooms. I see a lot of bedrooms. So none here today, but yeah, it's nice to choose like a place that is not that or like yeah, take on a big challenge like a big room like this, like a big grocery store. I guess one thing is it's very open. Like really in a grocery store, you're going to have shelves and shelves and shelves. I like a really layered background. I'll show you a great example of this, and apologies to any of my students that might be here because I show this one all the time. But nonetheless, I think this is a great layout. And I was working with a student on this layout for quite a while because um, it started with like it started very empty. And I felt like I was like, I really like a full layout, you know, like a and so this is what we ended up with. So lots of layering, layering, layering. You rarely see an entire thing in and of itself. Like even the banana is the only thing I guess that we see fully, but even then it's even blocked a little bit by the carpet. So we've got banana, we've got vase, crate, chest, wheel, bookcase, ladder, and even that's covered up by this a little bit. Up here, she had this balcony kind of going across, and then I'm like, what can we put up there? Okay, let's put some strapped old like treasure that this pirate had found previously. And then the windows were wide open. So we're like, okay, curtains. You know, break up your background so that it's nicely dense and layered and feeling believable, like a livable place that somebody could actually be in. So I think that's an excellent sort of example of good layering. Um, okay, great, Millie. Um, Yeah. So Shiloh, if yours is just white, I mean, I would love to see it because it's you can do it with just white. So there's multiple way. Like you have your light and dark line, of course, of like dark in the foreground, you know, lighter in the background. But here's another thing that I want to clarify about that. Um, you have your dark line in the foreground, but you also need your detail line. So whatever that might be, remember, we want to be able to see detail in the foreground a little bit if you want to describe anything a little bit more precisely, depending on your style. Some people have very cartoony styles, and it's going to be a little bit different for you. But you kind of want to have two lines. And then back here, you're going to have some details, not nearly as much though, because that's further back, right? So if you want to describe that wood grain, which admitted you probably should, seeing texture is a nice thing. Then yeah, you want to have your sort of line hierarchies set so that it clearly communicates as it goes back in space. And then beyond that, if you have stuff that's really far back, what you can do, aside from just lightening your line like crazy, is you can actually like lighten your line color, right? You can do that. So that way, this is now a gray, was a gray. A great example of this from past years. This was actually last year, one of the students from last year. Wonderful layouts. I love this person's portfolio. You can see these, they're publicly available. So beautiful sense of like intense text line weight in the foreground, lighter as it goes back, but not just lighter in terms of thickness, in terms of lightness of line generally. So you see how, you know, this, yes, it's a smaller line, but it's also just a gray, a darker, it's a different kind of gray. So look closely at the details, and it's amazing. You can get quite a bit of details, a beautiful textural rendering of an environment just by varying that, right? Same thing with the exterior. Here's the exterior. So this is a lot of texture. This is like texture is turned up to 13 out of 10 here. But it's very descriptive, right? The bark, the foliage, the grass, the bushes, the mushrooms, the rocks, the pathway, everything is crystal clear. I really want to emphasize how important it is to have like, yeah, very clear textures. And even at back here, the lighter gray line, right, really helps to make the foreground stand out. Also want to mention a great example here of varied ground planes. I don't, especially in the exterior, remember to contrast the linear layout, you want to make your landscape bumpy. it should feel bumpier, right? That would make sense. You don't want to just do a normal, boring, flat landscape. Um, okay, I just want to check this for 1 second because I think Shiloh, you mentioned that you posted it here. Okay, sure. So here's so I'm gonna kind of weave in and out of everyone's here a little bit. Hopefully, I got most of them, I think, or at least one or two from. Um, yeah. So Shiloh, yeah, absolutely. You could just do this. Although I have to say that this foreground tree is begging for like a darker tone. But I mean, really, like you don't need a darker tone. Like I mean, like even like this. Like if your range was like that, that. Oh, I'm not even at 100% opacity here. Uh-oh. Let me try that again. So yeah, you want it to be like enough that it's obvious. And then white, right? Or you have one more, but that's fine. Like just those three. That would be all right. Um, yeah. Shiloh, I think you've got some scale things going on because like yeah, like the trees I'm kind of like, okay, our character, they just don't exactly feel like they're in the same world. I think part of it is that I really want to see how they interact with the ground. So emphasize texture, especially in areas where there are two different forms that are meeting. So if there is trees, yeah, let's see where they approach the ground form. And yeah, I guess they feel a little bit homogeneous. You're getting like a very similar read on the branchiness of everything. And really, at this far back, I don't think you even need all of that texture. You could probably push a lot of this back and focus mostly on the silhouette. Especially back here, it's just not worth it, right? Focus on the silhouette, and then yeah, overlap your main forms a little bit, but you don't need to do this a tremendous amount. Um, so yeah. Yeah, you can. It's just a bit homogeneous how you've made that shape. Maybe even change up your spruce. There are different kinds of spruce trees, right? So like changing that up, densely layering them a bit more. But that back layer, you could even merge several silhouettes together or something if you wanted to, so that you get a nice thick read on that forest. And also let's have it transition up the slope a little bit. And some okay, with rocks, there's certain rocks that are dead giveaways that they were just printed from the rock factory. Okay, so this is one of them right here. So this rock, that would not have lasted 1 second in nature, right? So unless something just fell and crushed this space. So rather, it would make a lot more sense to round. In most cases, there is rock like shale, but then it needs to universally read as that kind of rock. In this case, like it'd be much better to double down on this kind of rock. See, yeah, like this stuff, this doesn't read as the same sort of rocky form. You'd have to really make me believe that it is kind of crushed together over, hundreds of years. Rocks should feel very old in almost all cases. Um, okay. Yeah. And that doesn't really make sense. Like if the rock, how does the water come out there and then go down? So there's, just do something like that, or even just add more so that it's more solid. Yeah, see that just can't happen. Oh, sorry, that's a cloud. Well, so that gives you another problem is that this looks a little bit like a rock. The way that you describe this feels similar to your rock. So I guess like the cloud texture should maybe be a little bit differentiated. Um, yeah, you can overlap clouds, but you got to be careful about cloud texture because they're already very light. So you don't want to make them too wispy. Um, yeah. Yeah, so you need more interactions of different things, like the texture of different things approaching these and more overlapping forms generally. More things blocking. See, that one's floating in the air. More things blocking other things. Like that is what a real life kind of scenario looks like. Lots of density, 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 density. Um, so yeah, like I could keep going about this. Um, Yeah, like really, yeah, it feels a little bit like an afterthought that like how the tent is constructed and stuff. Like it needs to be a little bit more, I don't know. Maybe you haven't been camping, but yeah, it doesn't quite feel like a real thing. Get some texture in here as well, right? Like the folds of the tent. It's going to follow a similar sort of rule as most drapery, to be honest. Um, yeah, like this, that just, yeah, the rock just needs to feel more like rock. And that tree wouldn't happen, right? Like that just can't really. We need to have more, yeah, and do more with the landscape. Like it's too flat here, and then suddenly mountainous. There is transition areas. There's parts where you can have some. I mean, this is animation too, right? So I would just like launch a cliff or do something, do something dramatic. I think to change things up. Also, we totally wouldn't see the top of this waterfall. I'm not sure how I just saw this now, but your horizon line is clearly somewhere down here. So we are not going to see the top of that. We will see pretty much that. And then the rocks kind of, if they're taller than the waterfall, then we'll see them up above. But we are, yeah, the waterfall, the top of the waterfall is out of reach to us. We will not see that just by the horizon line itself. Okay. Hand drawing. Let's talk about something totally different. Um, oh, there's a bunch of questions here. Should you focus more on lighting tones or tones of the objects in the image? Um, the tonal thing is just about clarity. I cannot emphasize that enough, folks. So if you're getting so deep into the rendering of these different like lights that are happening, don't bother. It's the lighting is or sorry, not the lighting is like secondary. That's for save that stuff for your personal work. They mostly just want to see the drawing, and so the tones are just to assist in viewing the drawing, understanding and interpreting the space. Don't worry so much about like, yeah, accurately lighting a scene. If you're relying on the lighting to sell the composition, then don't do that as your layout. The lighting, the line work alone should do it. Okay. Um, yeah, awesome. Okay, let's do some hand drawing. Whose is this? Oh, I don't know. I grabbed them all from Discord. Well, okay, pretty good. It's a little bit sketchy, obviously, right now. So that's, one thing right off the bat. It's also just a little bit geometric. Maybe you just did this because it's an early crack at it. But definitely like this doesn't quite feel like a hand. It feels like a robot or an AI's interpretation of human hands, which is always funny. Um, yeah, so like with fingers, what I find generally is that there is like these sections that are softer on the bottom, and then you can kind of like almost overlap those ovals to kind of connect it. But really, this doesn't do it perfectly. Like the ellipse that you need to make to sell that volume is going to be different depending on what's happening. If the finger's coming towards us, we're going to see more of that oval. If it's perpendicular to us, it's going to be more like that. Okay, good. But between the digits of the finger, one thing that I want to emphasize here is that like you have the smooth area, and then you have these little bumps of the knuckle. Do not overstate those bumps, or it's going to feel like arthritic. You don't necessarily, I mean, maybe you could draw someone's hand that's arthritic. You don't have to draw your hand. It says that in the requirements. But nonetheless, like you don't want to emphasize it too much. Sometimes I see people do stuff like this, and I'm like, okay, it's not like every hand is a witch's hand. So, and then there's a little divot after and before knuckles, and then there's a long stretch that is more like a convex curve, which is a volume that presses out from itself. Um, and then as it approaches the next knuckle, there's another little divot like before. And then there's the little, yes, even that's, I'm starting to overstate it. Um, yeah, then you've got the knuckle in that section. And then you really need these parts to echo the ellipse that is happening underneath. So if you didn't have those ellipses, you should still be able to understand the geometry of the finger and the anatomy as it like wraps and bends in that area just based on these creases. So yeah, and if there's any folding or anything like this, just really make sure to give us a sense of that skin colliding. You want to see that. You don't want to stray away from that. So stuff like that is great. Any kind of sense of flow. Yeah, this seems like it needs to maybe come down a little bit before it kind of continues up into that hand, but definitely like using these interior lines to help us interpret the geometry here. And in these cases, I might be tempted to kind of emphasize that knuckle a little bit. There's also, I mean, not really. In some cases, you can see little areas, but there is a tendon that runs through here. You don't really need to draw stuff like that. But to just be like, here's the knuckle is a nice little nod to just confirm that you know where they are. Um, Another thing that is nice to see, if you're going to do under structure, which many folks do for the shared portfolio, do identify the tip, like and how much of the tip of each finger, and what is the rotation of one tip versus another of each of the fingers, right? So that way we can easily identify if there are problems in the rotation of the finger. So yours is a little sketchy to the point that I'm not really sure. I need a little bit more before I can really like know one way or the other if it's like all right. But um, in the meantime, if I look at your finger width here and I compare it to the thumb here, like actually, what am I talking about? Actually, it's that. So that's a like when I look at my pinky and my thumb like this, like straight in front of me, I do not see um, that extreme of a difference from one to the other. Okay, I see like a little bit. But what this says to me is that, and I'm not saying you did this, whoever you are, but it looks like you used a photograph. And this is one of those things that Sheridan doesn't like, of course. And it's just because with most phone cameras, if you take a picture and something is closer to that camera, it's going to be artificially larger than it should be, and things that are further away are going to look really, really small. It's kind of a wide angle lens in micro form. So you just need to be careful about that. Okay, any questions so far, just out of curiosity? Anyone can speak up too. You can turn on your mics. Um, this is a bit of an extreme bend. I see what you're trying to get at, but like for me personally, I have a bit more of a bend happening in this digit before that were to happen because it's almost too abrupt. Like you need to foreshadow that. Um, Yeah, so that it's like more of a gradual change. I do like the force that you're trying to achieve with this. Like you're really going for the maximum sense of that reach. So one thing to think about between these two poses, here is your more passive one. And then here is your more active one. So to emphasize each of these is a good idea. You don't want the active one to be like, it's the whole point is it's throwing a thing. They want to see the action clear. So to do, I think you're maybe again you're pushing it a little bit extreme, and also it seems a bit flat, um, mostly because of these lines. But yeah, I like the intent of this, of like trying to really get that hyperextension that you can achieve with your fingers. Um, so yeah, these you just need to build these volumes a little bit more, like the sense that they're round and three-dimensional. Right now, I don't currently. So if I were to just do a little bit here, and you can overlap this too, especially the knuckles because they're kind of behind. Um, so something like that. Okay, so there we go. That's feeling a little bit better. And you might even get some tension between each of the fingers, right? Because there's like skin being pulled here. Um, so that has a bit more sense of that force, right? Um, and yeah, I'm emphasizing the knuckles. Yeah, I don't know about this width and how it just kind of fans out because you have perspective here, and I'm like, what happens to it later? It's a bit odd. It feels a bit too wide, and the perspective isn't as clear considering that this is how it began. So something is odd here. This would take longer to deconstruct, but life drawing. Let's do some. Okay, wait. This character. Sorry. You're gonna use your phone camera, just make sure your hand is far away from the camera. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly what I typically say, Alona. Like it's better to take your phone, zoom in on your hand, and then take the picture. That would be slightly better. Or just draw someone else's. Like you get infinite amount of cool poses from someone else's hand. And but dude, like when you're thinking about this too, try to draw interesting views of your hand. You mostly achieve this. But like you want to get a good view where it's like, okay, here's a three-quarter view of the palm. So it's going to be harder, but it's going to be nicer because it's like, we see the fingers insert into the palm. Some of them are coming towards, some of them might be bending. There's like a transition between them. And then like the before could be going back like that, you know? So three sides, that's a nice way to think about it. A nice three-quarter view. Speaking of different views, let's go down to the character. Um, Nice character, person, mystery person. Yeah, it is nice. It's a cute little character. Um, yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into this because normally in a student session I would take like ages and just stare at this for ages until I can like properly. Well, okay, this hoof. shouldn't like it shouldn't include the fluff, right? The fluff is fluff, the hoof is hoof. So, okay. Yeah, the hoof geometry is a bit odd. I feel like these forms should be clear, and then this form should be clear. Um, yeah, and you've got a bit of a wavering line thing going on in multiple spots. You just gotta cut that off, like just simplify it a little bit. Um, yeah, I don't know about these lines. I don't think you need them. You can have like the slightest amount maybe, but for the most part, it seems almost redundant. Like all you really need is like, duh, okay, there's volume back here. Great, no problem. Um, very realistic rendering of the clothing. It's pretty good. These buttons feel a little bit sticker-like. I would probably break your silhouette there to get them more clearly. That feels a little bit more. Okay, and even this, like, it looks exactly like it does there. Like, we should see more of the side of this, and less of that side. So it's almost should be a little more like that. And that should be more of an ellipse, and we should see some of the side of that. I'm getting a little fussy here, but well, I mean, geez, Sheridan international students last year were like 93% acceptance. So fussiness is the name of the game now. Um, yeah, okay. What I was going to say when I brought this in is that this back three-quarter view is really favoring the back view. Like your back three-quarter view feels like this is your back three-quarter view, basically. It's like that is this is like a back with a tiny bit of side, right? You need to get a little bit more like let me draw this carefully here, like that. This is a, even that's not balanced. There we go. So here's your back, and from your particular view, because you're rotating this way, here's your side. So when I look at this, like I see so much back. Like you should go for more of that. So if you think about this being the side view, like where is any of that here? Almost all covered by the ear, really? Like I think it would make a lot more sense to see. Yeah, see, like when I look at the horns, I'm like back view. If that is how the horn points, yeah, so it's going out towards the sort of back three-quarter view. So if it's facing us, if it's basically what you're saying from the front view is it's doing this, then you get to choose, right? So push it the other way. Why not? But just make it very foreshortened and make this curve a lot more, you know? So that is also a back three-quarter view technically, but it's less of a back view, right? So now we've bought ourselves a lot more real estate. I'm not going to go through it and get these all perfect for now, but something like this. And then, yeah, then we see a little bit of that snout coming in, and then the neck. And then guess what? Now, like we can still get the ear in really nicely, actually. We don't want to hit that line, so let's move that out of the way. So with character design, you kind of just have to move stuff out of the way, like all the time, so that you don't get these tons of tangents and stuff like that. What do the ears do from the front? They're going out to either side. Okay, sure. So there's the one coming out to this side. The other is going out to the other side. So use your x-axis more with this side over here. Just FYI, I didn't mention these yet, but this is your X, this is your Y, and in this case, this is your Z. This is your depth. So remember these, they are important. They are going to come up again and again. Okay, so let's see, how much space between the eyes? Not a lot. We've got like, yeah, a little bit. So really, I mean, technically, I guess this eye should be a little bit closer to the middle. Doesn't really matter. It still looks like your character. Probably not going to affect your score either way. But if it was, fussy me marking, I'd look for stuff like that. So from here, you can see that you would really, you would be able to see your eye, but it would be very squashed. It'd just be a little sliver like that, right? And then the little eyebrow. So you're going to get some of all of this, but just less of it in the back three-quarter view. Yeah. Yeah, just like that. See, and I'm also putting it in perspective so that it's not going that it's kind of going out this way a little bit more. So that's a truer back three-quarter view. And guess what? Now you can see your character's face in the shot. That's great. Now if you're directing something and you want to show the character from the back three-quarter view, you can see them. That's a nice thing to include. Okay, how much can you break perfect rotation for the sake of readability? Oh, Alona, let me open up my essay on this. Holy, like that is the question with character design because you need to do this all the time. There's all these instances where you need to just disobey reality and do what makes a better pose, basically. The classic one is like the whole like arm coming out to the side scenario. It's like, great, okay, looks good from here, looks okay from here. Uh-oh, we're at the side view. What happens? Let's just push it back so that we don't block the entire body with this pose. Is that sort of different than this? Yeah, I guess. Is anyone going to care or notice? Not really, right? And like, did anyone apply in previous years? Do you remember the possum or the fox for that matter? They both had their fluffs out to the side, right? So how do you shoot them from a back three-quarter view? Does anyone remember how frustrating that is? It's so tricky to like get the fox's fluffs in if you have to do this all the time from a back three-quarter view. It's like, great, okay, well, enjoy never seeing the fox's emotion ever from a back three-quarter view. It'd be much better to push it this way, in my opinion. It's awkward. It is awkward, I admit, but it is okay. This is a design. This is called an animation cheat, and it happens all the time where they just kind of fake it till you make it. You just force it to happen, and yeah, and now great. Now we can get the fox's expressions in no problem, you know. So yes, so absolutely, like for the sake of readability or just like good design, this is literally like it says it in the name. This is character design. So you need to design this. You need to get your artistic fingers in there and manipulate it until it works. Um, so okay, so you flopped the arm here. Yeah, I suppose that's okay. It does feel like it's just kind of flopping into nothingness. Um, because his hand's right there, like, you know, so like the pocket, like the roundness of these pants isn't really feeling yeah, something's a bit weird here. So there's no distance, eh? Huh. Um, well, yeah, it seems like we need to see a little bit more around, like this needs to be rounder so that I can plausibly fit there, I guess. That's how I'm feeling. So I guess like maybe just give it a little bit more volume to feel like it could be feasibly in front of those pants because the geometry is a bit odd. Also, remember that three-quarter views, you don't have to align the shoulders and the hips so perfectly. Like, yeah, it makes sense here, but here, this is like, look at the feet. What are the feet doing? They are doing that. They are doing this. Good, you did that right. So why is it then that nothing else corresponds to this? This is the perspective you set for yourself. So realistically, this should be going like this, right? And the shoulders, they should not be even. Otherwise, this whole side is going to be longer because it ends here and this one ends there. So you're going to have a longer leg, you're going to have a longer arm, longer, it's going to feel disproportionate. So what I would say is get these angles set up and then lock that in for the whole pose. Even the eyes. I mean, it's not going to make too much of a difference from this point of view. Probably would be pretty much the same. But this, you perfectly like Matt, do that with the ears. Now the irony of this is that the platypus doesn't do this. It's an isometric drawing of a platypus. So the front view, like you can see the beak just go perfectly out to the side. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about, but anyways, it drives me crazy because really from a three-quarter view, let's see the three, like, is this thing in perspective or not? You know, that's what we need to decide. And my feeling is that it is. So let's skew this oval that is his pelvis and draw it as it should be from a three-quarter view like that. So these aren't going to be aligned. Otherwise, again, if you do that, and again, you kind of like maybe force that up a little bit, but if you do that, then you're going to have a very long this section if you do this here. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. Um, forgiving. I'm not sure what you mean by that second question alone out. Forgiving about what? And if anyone has any questions, keep going. Remember, I'm only here for another I don't know, half hour or so. Wait, what time did we start? Oh wow, no, it's only 9 minutes. Okay, we got to wrap up very soon. First of all, I don't know whose is this character. I thought this one was very fun. Very classic kind of I guess Disney-esque kind of character. Yeah, great. Really, really engaging, fun shape language. Um, yeah, the wing might be tricky because I imagine in a story you would need that wing to sort of reach out and touch things and actually do things in the world. So I guess one thing I would consider if I were you is like having the I don't know the right terminology for this, but where it's all like bent up and like the wing is there, but there's yeah, I don't know. A part of me actually wants to like have the wing out doing something so that we can kind of see how it behaves. Kind of like how if they gave us a good platypus character design sheet, we would see the arms actually doing something, or like the hand. I mean, the hand's doing this in one of the poses, but it's not enough. Like if you were an animator, you'd be like, where's the rest of this, you know? Yeah, if you did that and then you just maybe had the one wing out. I don't know. It seems like that might be kind of useful just to see how the wings actually behave. Does it go back in space? You know, it would be hard, but I think worth it. I think that's the kind of thing that you could handle. And you've done this so far, so this is looking pretty great. Yeah. I get some texture in there probably. That could be nice in little spots. Not a lot, but just like a little bit here and there. And he's wearing a little hood. Great. I like that you gave him a little outfit. That's actually charming. So yeah, and I don't see too many bird characters, so good for you. Yeah, full speed ahead. And okay, remember about this thing. We just talked about this. So, from this angle, look at the feet. That's your angle. Forget about this thing. Get this. This is your angle to match for each of these little feathers. Um, yeah, same with the hips, or I don't know, whatever they are. All that stuff should feel pretty much in line that way. And same with this one. Oh, the little headband. Yeah, overall, it looks like a very charming character. Careful about the foot size. These feet feel very small. This one feels a lot. This feels like your kind of beauty shot here. I would go with this one as the standard and then get the rest. Yeah, so like I'm not really feeling the same volumes here. So remember, this is all good. Use this abstract stuff if it helps you, but at the end of the day, it has to work. It has to make sense. It has to make those feet feel like they're the same volume. Um, yeah, Millie, don't worry. This is going to be recorded and posted to YouTube. So yeah, I mentioned that in the description. We didn't get to any life drawings or okay, one thing about character. Um, yeah, so this is yeah, a nice little character. I like the instrument. That's very fun. Um, I'll get to that, Shiloh. Don't worry. That's a great question, though. Um, but here's the thing about sort of a fantasy-esque character is that you really need to do something that's gonna like stand out. Because just remember that this is a absolutely saturated market for fantasy sort of well, characters, elves, dwarves, like that kind of thing. It is filled to the brim. So you really need to push it. And currently, what I'm feeling is that now this works. You're doing this for sure. But it feels like that the proportions are not like pushed that much beyond what we see in reality. Like it's pretty much standard proportions of a human. So, good on you for achieving that. But as far as a character design goes, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more exaggerated design. So just as like an example of one of my characters I made in my class here think it's week 3. Sure. So, I'm specifically trying to push his shape language. Tiny little boots, weird shaped head, strange nose, wide set eyes, big turtly neck, bulky kind of limbs, some sharper sort of curves in his shoulders, sunken chest. I'm trying to like push the shape language a little bit more. So I think in this case, I think you could do more to exaggerate, to kind of come to that realm of animation where you can exaggerate and push the design more. As great reference, you folks should check out Living Lines Library or livelily.blogspot.com. But more importantly, the Klaus character design is fantastic. So and especially look at some of the secondary and tertiary characters in Klaus. Like some of these characters, like any one of these, like what I see here is that they are just pushing shape language like crazy. They're trying to make such exaggeration between different characters so that they get this kind of full range. Like look at this guy. He has like no torso. He's like only legs. And then there's some that are like, tiny little feet, giant upper body. So I don't know. It's just it has a really fun mixture of like very hilarious different personalities that I think is it shows a lot of the play that can happen between characters. And yeah, I love this character designer. So anyway, big shout out to Klaus and just generally this website of where is it? Living Lines Library, it's called right here. You can just Google that. It's great. Um, but anyways, yeah. So good rotation, like really works. It's just that I think you can push it a little bit more. That's all. That's the too long didn't read version. And the face is a little bit. I don't quite know what you're trying to say with the face. It seems a bit like not super well described. It's almost like nervous that your portfolio is being marked right now. I don't know. Okay. Does medium matter a lot? Okay. I'll try to have a look. Shiloh. So medium and light drawing, it doesn't matter that much. It will matter once you're in Sheridan, but like Conte, pencil, charcoal, it doesn't really matter. I do generally see dry mediums, but I had a student the other year that got in with pen drawing, so I was very surprised about that. I don't see this a lot, and honestly, his were even like they were so different than what I typically see as a passing animation portfolio. So yeah, like these, yeah, okay, it actually is. It looks like it's pencil actually. Yeah, I think it is. But anyways, it's just like I don't know. They're not the typical kind of life drawing I see in shared portfolios. They're too linear, too like detailed and small little muscly things. So, yeah, but generally they don't. One thing I don't know whose this was, but you're too silhouette focused. You're getting the silhouette, sure, a little bit, although you're really over rendering these lines, like just crazy. Because what is it? Is it that line there and this line, or is it this one and that one? That's a big difference. So it's just too imprecise. And really, the larger picture here is that you need to feel your way through the form versus just drawing around it. And this is kind of a more mystical idea that is kind of harder to describe. But like basically, build up the form gradually, build up the torso. Even though you don't see that, well, guess what? There's a lot of things that you need to draw that you don't necessarily see immediately. But like work on really just building out that torso. And like creating a believable sense of weight and volume throughout the various parts of it. And then, yeah, then you can get to the more specific area. It's hard to talk and draw at the same time. Yeah, so you kind of map out the arm very, I see even that's too dark, right? Map out the arm very lightly. And then usually while I'm mapping it out, I'll throw a little hand gesture in there just to kind of try to save time. But then you come in with your darker line and confident line. That's another underestimated aspect of the light drawing is confidence and just like elegance of approach, which is something that is honestly it's hard to kind of pin down. It's something that only with having done this quite a bit do you have that kind of confident line. So all this to say that they really like when the volumes are believable but it feels like you've built up to them gradually, kind of like what I'm trying to show here. That arm's too big. Anyways, hope that helps a little bit, Shiloh. But yeah, so not really. It's more about how you approach it, but don't focus too much on silhouette, more on the forms through yeah, so some things are working here, some things are very odd. And the line is too uniform. That's the problem with pencil is that you just get all these same thickness of line when you need more diversity. And again, you need more of those construction lines of the figure before you got to that state. Like, where's your midline? Where's your line of action even? And like your hips and the shoulder blades. Like, let's see each of those first before we get into any of the more complicated stuff. Let's just focus on that stuff alone. So anyways, okay, we're losing folks. So making each figure pretty big. I use 18 by 24 newsprint like most folks. I don't have my life drawing right here, but yeah, like I usually do a couple of gestures on a page just because some of those ones are really, really nasty. But when I get to like 3 minutes, I'll start maybe doing one per page, but sometimes two per page, not two, but and that's turned sideways. But in Sheridan, they're fussy about that. They say one per page always. And I'm just like, all right, are you buying my newsprint then? But anyways, okay. Rotation, Tay, let's see. I'm just gonna give you a general sense of this because I gotta go soon, but okay, character rotation. Oh, this is very fun. Is this Yute? I don't know. Looks like it. Um, Pretty fun. Your three-quarter view is your best one. The feet feel odd, I have to admit. They feel almost like a backhoe or something, like one of those big machines, like with that can dig the earth. It just looks a little geometric. I would make that a little more natural. And it looks almost too robotic. Tilt his head a little bit, make him slouch, make that more apparent from the front. Um, yeah, but a good start. Yeah, just too geometric from the front. Like I like how I see a lot more of his personality here. Not bad shape language though. Um, yeah, we would probably see more of him. Yeah, it's too. It's you know what it is. It feels like you've built it in Blender or something. You built it in 3D and then you're just kind of like merging it. There's more design decisions here that need to happen that are not based on reality. So a good start, but definitely a little bit overly geometric. All right. Um, Great. Okay, thanks everyone to coming for coming to this free portfolio review. Remember that like we are always available and we have multiple tutors now. So if you ever need any help, if you just want some basic feedback, you can go to our programs page, go down to mentorships, and this most straightforward way to book sessions with us that have no class schedule or curriculum or anything. You just want straight feedback is just to book a private lesson. And you can book just one or several. It's totally up to you. We can also choose multiple tutors. We have three tutors currently. Myself, Tieran, who's broken draw. Maybe you've seen him on YouTube. He's fantastic. And Mahi, who's amazing at like painting and visual development. I mean, look at her artwork. It's incredible. So anyways, these folks are on hand. My time is very, very limited in the next couple months. So I probably can't take on too many more students, but our other tutors can. So please have we also have a ton of classes. So if you don't get in this year and you want to start building up your skills for next year, definitely have a look at our classes, our courses, and our course bundles. Here's the Sheridan bundle, which has courses that are specific to getting accepted at Sheridan. But anyways, okay, thanks everyone for attending. Um, he told you to make 3D reference beforehand. Yes, a 3D reference is a great idea, but just don't like use it as the gospel. Like you still need to go in there and manipulate it as a 2D designer. Okay, awesome. Thanks everyone. I hope that helps, and I'll post this on YouTube. So take care, and I'll see you in January for our next free portfolio review. All right, see ya.